By far one of the most interesting of the all three amphibians, Zamtrios is actually a very interesting one. It looks like he originally came from the sea, but if that's the case, then why is he all the way in the Arctic? Why does he go on land? And that's what we're going to talk about here today, and really just kind of dive into this theory that Zamtrios originally came from the open sea in Monster Hunter. Now, one of the things we do have to discuss here is that Zamtrios does have a cryo sac, and this would give it its ice armor ability, which allows it to defend itself from some form of predators. Zamtrios shares its ecology and pretty much its environment with some of the most dangerous predators in Monster Hunter: Barioth, Tidal Najarala, Gauss Harang, and even the likes of Kenlos and Kezu. All these predators are very dangerous, so why does Zamtrios need ice armor? Well, it seems to protect them from some of their weapons that can pretty much punch through the strongest hides and armors in Monster Hunter. But needless to say here, why did Zamtrios choose to live in the Arctic? He chooses to live in much colder seas, and then akin to his tiger stripe subspecies, he lives in the desert. Well, let's talk about it, right? The oceans in Monster Hunter are actually some of the most dangerous places probably in fiction. You know, you go in there, you may not be coming back out, whether you're a hunter, or creature. With creatures like Narcarcos and Cadeus roaming around and Legiacris, it's very understandable why some of these monsters would choose not to remain there for long. But what about Zamtrios? What's his story? Considering the fact that he may have an ancestry with sharks, I do believe Legiacris is the main reason why that Zamtrios may have chosen a life outside of the ocean and went to colder waters. Because here's the thing. Legiacris cannot function properly in colder waters due to its electric nature. For some reason, its electricity actually slows down when it's in these colder, more Arctic water areas, making him much more, I guess you could say, making it much more difficult for him to actually function. But did Zamtrios actually get an easier life away from Legiacris than a life in the sea than on land? Well, let's really talk about it. Now, Zamtrios, despite being a predator himself and preying upon certain creatures, it does have its fair share of predators. One of them, I do believe, is Gauss Harang. Gauss Harang would not hesitate to snatch up any Zamite tadpoles, shark poles, or whatever, with its awesome bareness entirely, right? So Gauss Harang would be a main predator of maybe even younger Zamites, and maybe coming across any weakened or injured Zamtrioses, it just doesn't pass up the opportunity. I mean, it's a bear. Bears are very opportunistic predators. They even scavenge wolf kills. Next up, Barioth. Yeah, I don't think there's really an exception for this here. I mean, Barioth is literally one of two apex predators in the Arctic. It's literally made to punch through armor and even take down the likes of Devil Joes via the ambush. And considering they're so much more capable than Zamtrios, and they're able to sniff out any creature even while they're in hibernation, and yes, Zamtrios does have a hibernation time period, pretty much kind of like, how bears hibernate during the winter on some occasions, Zamtrios also hibernates. It leads me to say that it may even go to the lengths of Barioth going into the frozen seaways and picking out any sleeping Zamtrioses for a mighty well feast. But despite that, these two are very good apex predators. They're not its primary predator. That title goes to one of the most dangerous monsters in Monster Hunter till date. Some who people actually stated, and I've actually seen say they hate battling him. The Tidal Najarala, obviously. Now, if you guys want, go to my Najarala video, and I do explain why Najarala's armor is so thick and why his subspecies will be 10 times thicker. It's made to deal with the bites of a Zamtrios, which will probably have a stronger bite force than Barioth due to how its head shape works and the jaw strength behind it. Now, the fact that Titanodrala would be an apex predator, or pretty much the primary predator to Zamtrios, makes sense here. It's a snake in a amphibian relationship. It makes perfect sense, right? But the thing is, Titanodrala may just have Zamtrios around. Sorry, Titanodrala may just have the frozen seaway just filled with these Zamtrios because they're there so frequently. So it has pretty much an established food source already there, with Popo and Tekka and, Lagombi and Kezu simply crossing as it goes on. Blangoga as well. This means that Titanodrala is pretty much the main predator to Zamtrios, which means that Zamtrios may have to actually flee or develop something along the lines of some resistances, maybe to its venom or something, to actually deal with that. But despite that, Zamtrios actually does live a much easier life than in the ocean. And it makes sense. We've seen some amphibians from I think the Mesozoic era actually come on land to, escape predators. And Zamtrios did the same thing, except he got a much more exceptional food source out of it and no longer has its aquatic predator. Now, sure, he traded up for the likes of eating fish for like Lagombi, Kezu, and Blangoga, but at the end of the day, it's a much more acceptable life than being in the sea worrying about Legiacris 24/7. Zamtrios also lays its eggs encased in ice as well. Once the male and female are done mating, the female will pretty much dig out a good patch of ice and then lay her eggs in it and then freeze her eggs over so that they're at the right temperature. The baby Zamites will hatch and she'll stay there for a couple days while, she may bring prey to, for the hatchlings to parasite off of. But what about its bloatedness? What about its its bloated size? What is that for? Now, believe it or not, I do think this has some relation to ceratopsians or, some other form of predators that actually fight each other. Sorry, herbivores or carnivores that fight each other. It's either to intimidate younger, if not smaller males, or they use them to pretty much just wrestle each other. It's a lot less risky to do it like this than to use your jaws in order to prevent injury. And some predators, even in real life, would do that. Rattlesnakes actually have wrestling contests that don't really involve their fangs all like that. Same thing with, the likes of anacondas and king cobras. They do it without, actually harming or injuring each other. And in this way, they may just bash each other with their stomachs, grapple their hands and wrestle, and then the winner just gets thrown off while the male goes on to mate with the female. It's very possible that male bloated stomachs and female bloated stomachs are very much different. And also we have to go into the fact that they may actually mate like megalodons or great white sharks, biting the female and holding them in place while the male may bite the female and hold her in place while he does the deed. I mean, you got to also wonder if these guys were actually sharks at one point as well. Zamtrios looks a little too close to a shark than an actual amphibian. But I do like the amphibian classification because it makes more sense than to say it's a fish. Wait, what? A fish wyvern? What? So it's not a piscine wyvern? No, just a fish entirely. And you also have to wonder if Zamtrios actually did exist in the sea. Me, I personally think he did. I think at one point he did exist in the water and then decided to come on land because it saw that Legiacris was no longer coming, and instead of using land to constantly avoid Legiacris like it did originally, it eventually developed a cold resistance and a frost sac to eventually be able to go onto land, and boom, you have it where it is today. I'm done here. Nah, we're not done here just yet. We got one more. Tiger stripe Zamtrios. What's the deal with it? Why is it an amphibian in the desert in the first place? Well, in all honesty, who knows? But in all honesty, it does show its extreme adaptation as well. Amphibians that, it's able to use water and doesn't have its ice armor anymore, and it doesn't have its frost sac, but it has a paralytic or probably a thunder sac in its stomach. This is due to its probably its diet of the Celtis queen and maybe even, I would have to say, maybe Nibblesnarf. I would probably say around younger Nibblesnarfs, maybe around sub-adult, it should be able to prey upon them. And the fact that Tiger Stripe Zamtrios is in a desert also shows that it has that good skin absorption. Some toads can be away from the water for such a long time because they're able to absorb the moisture in their skin, like they're going to the water and they're able to like sponge it up, right? And then hop on out and go to their destination without drying up. However, in the desert, droughts may be a very common problem for Tiger Stripe Zamtrios. Not so much that it puts the species in danger, but to the point where they will bury themselves in maybe even dried up lake beds, or maybe even stay around lake beds, dig their ways into them as they dry up, and then form like a, you know, a cocoon of sorts around them. I'm not sure what it's called, but I know it's like a mud cocoon or whatever. And they'll stay in there until the drought is done, and then boom, they'll come back up as if nothing happened. However, there is a problem with that as well. They can still be dug out and eaten by predators, particularly ones like Tiger Rex. Tiger Rexes have very good sense of smell. They have actually one of the best all-around senses in the Monster Hunter family. Okay, and even in the Monster Hunter lore, they have some of the best sense till this very day. Okay, and Tiger Rex being able to not only smell where the Zamtrios is, but dig them out and just straight up snatch them out while they're in this hibernative state here, would be able to feed for weeks. All right, so again, I do think Tiger Rex would be one of the few, if not one of the deadlier predators of a Tiger Stripe Zamtrios. Okay, the next one up, I don't think it should be surprising, but probably a bit more skilled, is the Sand Barioth. I mean, there's no exception. If regular Barioth is eating Zamtrios, then Sand Barioth is eating a Tiger Stripe Zamtrios. There's no ifs and buts about it. It's just the sheer fact that they pretty much share the same thing with Tiger Rex. Good sense of smell, good eyesight, perfect killing machine, except you won't mess around with a the Rust Rambros, or maybe you tried and you actually just added to his blood imprint. But I digress here. Sand Barioth, right, is going to be able to not only sense where the Tiger Rex is, but manipulate the sand around it to the point where it could actually get a good hold on the Tiger Stripe Zamtrios' neck or its back, crushing whatever invertebrate it needs, whether sinking those fangs into its head or its spine, and then eat it. Last but not least, we have Glavenus. Now, while Glavenus may not be a primary predator like the other two, I do think Tiger Rex and Sand Barioth would be its primary, Tiger Stripe Zamtrios' prime predators. Glavenus deserves a spot on this list because it's very opportunistic. It's not going to pass up a chance to get a Zamtrios. They have a good sense of smell as well, but they may not be as good as burrowers, but they can probably dig up just enough to get their jaws around a Zamtrios, or use their tails to kind of just like, you know, drive away the sand just enough to where they can maybe bite the fin, pull the Zamtrios out, and then feed. Okay, so overall, yeah, I do think that I do like Zamtrios all around the board, though. I do like him. He is an amazing amphibian, and my theory for why he left the sea is because he simply evolved already running on land away from Lagiacris, but figured out the Arctic was a much better biome because Lagiacris didn't go there because they couldn't function well in the cold. Anyway, that's going to be all for today, you guys. Please comment down below, like and subscribe, and share it with your friends. This is Legendary Grimlock, and I'll see you guys later for the next Ecology video. Peace.